Hey guys, Jordan here, and I'm with my student Crystal. And awesome thing about Crystal is she's actually a wedding planner. She took a risk during this course, knowing that it was actually more specialized for like wedding photographers, wedding videographers. But she knew pretty much the same buying process through that bride's buying process. And she's been doing really well generating leads. I just booked a $2,900 wedding a couple weeks after launching her campaign. And yeah, we're going to pick her brain and really dive into her expertise and learn from what she's been doing as well. So yeah, Crystal, first off, tell us a little bit about you. How are you trying to generate leads and clients before joining the Wedding Lead Machine Accelerator as well?
Okay, so I'm a certified local wedding planner. I live in a very competitive market. And when I started off wedding planning, I was doing what every other wedding planner was doing. I was going to trade shows. I
Hmm,
was investing in trade shows and learned that it wasn't working, that I
hmm,
had to think of a way for me to stand out from the rest. And I knew that that was the old school marketing component, but I knew I had to change and do something. So then I started learning about social media marketing. I got certified for social media marketing through Ty Lopez's program. But the challenge was I was connected with a gazillion people who were doing this,
yeah.
but nobody was doing it in the wedding space, and it was getting very frustrating. So it took me a long learning curve to not only understand all the components of what I learned, but to actually how I was figuring out how I'm going to implement this and was looking for a coach, and I saw your ad, Jordan, and I was like, "Oh my god, is this like I just won the jackpot? Like this can't be true." So then I took the webinar that you had done and I was like, "Okay, I know this, but like have any experience with wedding planners?" And you told me no, but in my mind it was like if you've mastered the target market of brides, that's all I was solely looking for.
Hmm,
I didn't care if it was a wedding photographer because I knew that there was going to already be similarities. We're targeting the same audience.
hmm.
So I was willing to take the risk to do it because I knew right now there was absolutely zero people doing it in the market. So I knew it was a great opportunity to
I
take
see.
advantage of.
Yeah, totally understand. And before you even got started with that and everything as well, what were some of the obstacles that you faced growing your business? So what were you struggling with the most?
I was tired of people. I was being price shopped. When I
Hmm.
would be at a trade show, brides are going from booth to booth and they're just asking what our prices are. And I felt like we're all technically offering the same service, similar, but our process might be different. But I have no way of showing what my process is because brides have never been married before. So they're not even going to know what the difference is between me and somebody else if they've never gone through the journey.
Exactly.
So I started realizing like this isn't working. Like I'm just gonna get, and then all they do is nickel and dime you at a booth. And I didn't
Hmm.
want to be nickel and dimed anymore because I knew the value that I had to offer was so much stronger that I
Yeah,
needed to find a way to stand out from everybody else. And
exactly.
doing the same thing everyone else is doing wasn't gonna work.
Hmm.
Like it just wasn't gonna work.
And that's what I've been seeing happening, especially with things like wedding fairs, things like Wedding Wire and the Knot. There's no opportunity to really build your brand. It's like they see you, what's your price? They see this person, what's your
Yeah.
price? No brand
And then
building, no trust you can build. And
yeah.
I've seen this for a while, especially when it comes to a lot of vendors who've even been in the game for a while. They're like, yeah, Wedding Wire used to work great for me, and suddenly, boop. Like especially in this very millennial generation and everything as well. Yeah. And so, as a wedding planner and stuff, I really want to pick your brain when it comes to
Sure.
your knowledge, especially in this nurturing phase and everything. So, once you've launched your campaign, you've been able to generate leads, get brides to reach out, even book a $2,900 wedding in a couple weeks. And as students have gone through the course, they learn that it's our nurturing content is how we show we're the solution to a bride's desires and frustrations, our brand. Now, you being a wedding planner, knowing a bride's desires and frustrations and providing a solution is your expertise. So,
Uh-huh.
tell us what are a wedding fears, pains, and desires that you work with that aren't even always the most obvious.
So one thing I did learn from you is when I first started creating my wedding in my nurturing like content, I didn't have any problem coming up with content. But what I learned was at first I was picking out fears and things that I've seen from brides that I've worked with. But then I noticed there was like a light bulb that went off in my mind. And I was thinking, well, not everyone's going to come from a blended family, so they're not going to understand that content, or not everyone. So I started thinking, oh my God, Crystal, duh, you should have thought about this. You need to think about overall, regardless of age, regardless if it's their second or first marriage, what is something, regardless of their age, that they're going to feel? What are the frustrations? And so I had to re-engineer my brain to think that way. And then I realized, Crystal, they all have the same challenges and fears. One is they have no idea how much things cost. They don't know. Like, they don't know. They are scared of either overpaying for something or underpaying for something because they don't know how to judge value on suppliers. So being a guide for them on making a decision, I think, was one thing with the budgeting. But the other thing was their biggest fear is my wedding day going to be everything that I've envisioned? Like, I don't know what to expect. The not knowing what to expect, I think, is something that all brides, regardless of how many times they've gotten married, because I've talked to brides who've been married second time and first time, they feel the same way. Like, even with their second marriage, they still feel worried. Am I going to have the wedding day I've always dreamed of? And with having a wedding planner, it makes them feel a little bit more secure, because then they feel like they don't have that anxiety in the back of their brain.
I see.
They're stressed and overwhelmed by all the details involved in planning. Every bride gets overwhelmed at some point. Where they get overwhelmed, it depends on the cycle of where they're at, but at some point they're going to get overwhelmed. That for sure, I think, is 100%, no matter who the bride is and what stage. At some point they're going to feel overwhelmed by the details.
Exactly.
And the biggest thing is being able to afford the wedding they deserve, making sure their day is going to be everything they envisioned. And if you could focus on the money, my biggest thing is, I think, is if you could focus on the money and show them, give them tips that they, when I came up with the wedding planning checklist, well, anyone could look up a wedding planning checklist, right?
Yeah.
We could all look it up online. But what the difference is I told them, I constantly got the same questions asked of me all the time from brides, that I didn't just include a wedding checklist. You have to help them help them make decisions. What questions should they be asking their caterers? Because let me tell you, they always miss the same thing. Same things I've seen missed on picking their caterers or picking their florists, and not knowing what to look for on a contract. When I book a venue, what should I be thinking about? The things they never think about are, what is the garbage policy going to be like? Do I need to pay for security, or do they provide it? Is it a requirement, or is it an additional fee? They're just looking at a venue and saying, oh, this looks beautiful, I want to get married here. But they're not doing the numbers of how much does this venue include and what am I going to have to bring in from the outside? When you do the math, then you can make a more educated decision.
Yeah.
So I think helping guide them through making those decisions on the suppliers is huge, because they don't know what to look for.
Exactly.
And I would say that's just one of the key things, and that brings down the stress for them as well.
And one thing that I always tell the students is the questions that they ask, that's content right there. What are those main questions that you feel they always ask, and what are those questions that they don't know what to ask, and you kind of bring that up to them, and they're like, oh, like that is important, kind of thing.
And that's how you build trust, because as soon as I tell a bride, when you're booking your venue, you should be thinking about, I think about the logistics, they think about the prettiness of the venue.
Yeah.
And I'm saying, well, that's why I look at it different. So when I review your venue contract, I'm looking for stuff you're not looking for. I'm looking for their garbage policy, what their cleanup process is. If you're paying them for tables and chairs, yeah, they should be putting them out for you.
Yeah.
Like, that's a no-brainer. And then, are they an all-inclusive venue where they have a caterer in-house and they have alcohol in-house? Or do you have to bring that in, because then you have to add that number into your venue budget? That's something brides don't think about, because they just are like, oh, I could just bring it, and they think it's just going to be, because that could end up costing you more money.
I see.
So thinking about that and balancing and weighing all those options when it comes to the venue, I think, is important. Catering is the second one. a lot of people don't understand like what's the difference. Buffet is always going to be your cheapest option
Hmm.
because you're feeding more people faster, and it's also less it allows you more time in your wedding day, which brides always want more time. They
I
want to
see.
have to get rid of doing all the things they have to do but have as much time to party as possible because it goes by fast. So a buffet is always going to be less costly than a sit down is going to take up more time and be more costly. Buffet is going to be your more affordable option, but you want a full service caterer who's going to come pick up all their stuff, provide everything you need. But then also you can't forget about your cake. If you're doing a cutting of a cake, you need to make sure who's doing it,
Hmm.
because a lot of times brides don't even think about that and it gets unlooked at. And if they don't have a wedding planner, then no one's doing it. Like then someone has to do it. So they do charge a lot of suppliers now are including it and not charging extra, but they do typically charge per slice to
I
cut
see.
it, to serve it, to give it to the people. And a lot of brides miss that detail. And I think just talking about that tiny little piece about cake cutting is huge.
Yeah, and I think that's like I'm learning and stuff too. And these are things that a lot of wedding photographers don't look at. But if we can take a look at those small little details, almost kind of put a wedding planner's mind in our head for a second, we can start providing those solutions and stuff to build more trust in our brand when it comes to our content. And yeah, so what is the type of content you would create to solve those deeper desires, pains, and frustrations that a couple might have? And what are some tips that you could give wedding photographers in the program as well?
Okay. So I think talking about the timeline is huge. Every wedding that I've worked, I've had at least one supplier tell me, wow, Crystal, I see wedding planners running weddings and we're always behind. A wedding planner should never be behind, honestly. They should have a process in place. So, timeline of how to run a reception, timeline of a ceremony, so that everything runs smooth,
Hmm.
because it makes a difference on the experience for the bride. And you're really just buying them more time to experience their day. Talking about the top questions they should ask all their suppliers, I
Hmm.
think is huge and builds tons of rapport, because they're going to look at you like, I've had brides look at me and they're like, man, I never even thought of that. Of course they haven't, because they've never experienced it. So they
Hmm.
don't know what to expect. So by you being able to prepare them already builds a tremendous respect right then and there that you even know that.
Yeah.
So I think the top questions to ask suppliers, what's the ideal timeline for a reception, what's the ideal reception, I mean, what's the timeline for a ceremony, how to prepare for a wedding, like a walkthrough, like what's expected. When I do walkthroughs, I make sure that we are doing a walkthrough where the bride can envision from start to finish where their guests are coming in, and
Hmm.
we do it in order and where you want everything placed, so the day comes of the wedding and they have no surprises. They
Hmm.
know in their mind, they visually know where everything's going to be placed and the flow of how the night's going to go ahead of time.
Yeah.
Um, I think talking about how they're going to pay for things is a huge thing, like giving them unique ideas on how they're going to pay for their wedding. Everything related to budget and stress is where the content needs to come from, because they will read. I've noticed that they will read more when it comes to, or hear you more when it comes to what the top questions you should ask your suppliers are, or giving them any planning tips surrounding those topics,
Yeah.
um, has been the most successful. And you could nitpick that down to the
To
suppliers.
the little details and everything
Yeah.
as well. And that's I think that's awesome. If for the students in the program and everything, if you're listening now and you're having trouble when it comes to your nurturing content, here are a ton of ideas and everything that you can start thinking about researching and stuff as well. And what has been like some piece of content and specific topics that you've had brides really resonate with and be like, man, that was incredibly helpful.
The wedding checklist.
Ah, I
People
see.
like the wedding checklist because I kind of had to come up with it. I kept trying to revise the name of it. Instead of just calling it a wedding planner's checklist, I called it a wedding planner's secret checklist, because it's like, from a wedding planner's perspective, where I'm giving you gold because I've
Hmm.
already been down this road. But like if you just look up online and look at the checklist, they're just going to tell you the standard things, but they're not going to help you on what things you should be aware of. And so that added bonus into the checklist is what makes it easier for brides to realize, oh my God, I didn't even think about that. I
Hmm.
should make sure I ask my florist this, or, I should make sure that I know this when I'm asking my caterer. It
Hmm.
helps them plan their wedding where they feel more educated, helping them be more educated to make a decision that they feel okay about with their suppliers, I think is a
Nice.
huge thing.
That's awesome. So, next question I wanted to ask you. So, one of the most important parts of the funnel is the consultation, taking the conversion offline because that's how we really show our true value. But the transition from taking a lead to a consultation is what I found to be the most difficult part for the students. And also them just having the confidence in their consultations when they finally
Yeah.
get the couple in there. So, what are some tips you can give the students on how to get leads into consultations after they've been nurtured and doing the consultations as well?
So the interesting thing is I actually use the video,
Yeah.
honestly. So because if photography is a little bit different than for me, because photography you can see it, right? Like
Yeah.
you can visually see what you're going to get, and people are going to resonate with your style. So obviously you don't want to work with anyone who doesn't want your style of photography.
Hmm.
So it's a little bit different, but for me, I'm a service. A service, you can't feel it, you can't touch it,
Exactly.
you have no idea what to expect. So you're really you're looking to trust the person you decided.
Hmm.
Service, I'm really selling myself.
Exactly.
So the video that I just recently did was, the goal of it was to show this is a Love Gush events experience you get with me. But not only, I had a videographer follow me on a day of, he followed me on the rehearsal, he followed me the day of the wedding, and he followed me at the walkthrough with the bride and groom. And I wanted him to show, I told him I want to show like exactly what it's like the day of when you work with me. And then on top of that, he asked the bride and groom who I was working with, what was your experience when you first met Crystal all the way till now? And we had like, even if we had a 6-month relationship, what can you expect essentially? And then it happened to be that I was referred to from a couple who I already worked with, and they happened to be a couple who were at the wedding. So they did a testimonial talking about what their experience was too. Because really, somebody is looking in general, even photography, when you're looking to buy from someone, you want someone who's like you. And what you end up finding is, I find that all the brides I've ever worked with, they're exactly like me, very straightforward. They like that I'm straightforward. So I would say that the biggest thing is to find a way to find your unique advantage and show it and display it in some way, shape, or form, to take those people where you're giving them content and then you're sending them this information. Like I just sent a video.
Yeah.
And she wrote me on it. That solidified the deal, was the video.
That's
honestly.
awesome.
But the biggest thing she told me was, she's the type of person, she works in sales like I do. She is used to follow up. She likes follow up as soon as possible. She said, Crystal, what ended up happening is we are the same person. I'm the same way. I like to follow up with people. I like following up with people as soon as possible, so that's what I do. And she happened to be the same way. And she picked between me and another wedding planner, because she's like, Crystal, every time I asked you a question, it didn't matter what time of day it was, you followed up with me right away. Just responsiveness.
Yeah.
Because I'll tell you right now, working with a lot of vendors, oh my God, there's so many vendors who are not responsiveness. The longer time you wait to respond to people, you've lost them.
That's so true.
Being super responsive has been a benefit, and I've worked with a lot of vendors who aren't super responsive, and that's going to right away put you ahead of the bar, but also make you stand out from somebody else, because not everyone is. They don't care.
Yeah, no, totally understand. And kind of going back to what you're talking about with like the kind of person that you are is very much often the kind of clients that you get. Because when it comes to very much the kind of wedding couples that I've gotten in the past, they've always been that kind of hyper personality that kind of matched with mine. And I do those album viewings, I'd get to know their personality, and when they kind of had that same personality, you got that chemistry and everything as well, you know?
Yeah, so in my opinion, because I have years of sales experience,
Yeah.
you just have to, I think you just be authentic and be yourself. When the more authentic in yourself you are, I feel like the more people respect you. And then you're not like making them feel like they're just a number.
Exactly.
Like, that you're making them feel unique because you bring something unique. So my uniqueness was creating the video, because I knew in my market, I had done research and no wedding planners were doing videos. Everyone was doing the same marketing. And so I'm like the only one who decided to step out from the pack and market myself differently. I'm not going to compete in a flood of a bunch of wedding planners doing the same exact marketing, doing bridal shows, going to building relationship with venues, because by the time I could reach out, I'm probably the 10th one they've
Hmm.
heard from. I'm
Exactly.
going to do it a different way. And I think that's what you have to figure out too, is what is your competition doing, and go on a few of their websites, because they're all, when they come out, they're all copying off of each other's
Hmm.
marketing, and stand out from them.
I
Like
think that's
do
awesome.
something to stand out from them. So for me, it was doing this type of marketing, but also doing the video was huge. No one has done it in my market.
That's awesome. And I want to show the students the video and everything too. It's super cool. So when I post this, I'm going to put a link on there so you guys can watch it, even learn from it as well. It's really awesome. Yeah,
And it might be something a photographer might want to do too, showcase
exactly.
some of your work, showcase,
The behind the
when you're
scenes
meeting,
almost of
yeah,
it, you
behind
know?
the scenes of when you meet with them for engagement shoot, or take a, like of a wedding or someone. And I think personally, if you're in every sector of wedding industry, whether you're a photographer or a planner, or, there, we're all competing against many competition. So I think the
Exactly.
video was the best way to stand out, because the people who are going to really resonate with your personality, they're going to contact you for sure.
Exactly. And so, and what that's what I loved about it is you could really, like, what exactly what you said. You could turn the service into a relatable
Experience.
experience when they saw it. And it's kind of exactly what we're doing in the album video. We're getting to know their likes and dislikes, and we're hitting their emotions when we finally connect the pictures to what the experiences they want. And if you're a photographer and you have the opportunity to make a video, and you can even create something like that to really get a behind the scenes experience of the couples, and even some video testimonials, it was powerful, and I loved it. And I know Crystal even had a lot of brides crying at this video and everything as well, which is perfect. Exact what we
The
want from
emotion
them.
that I was trying to get people to be emotional about the experience, because a wedding is an emotional experience. And so for me to be a wedding planner is kind of like you're involved in someone's personal life to a different degree. So that's why I wanted it to feel like you could feel the emotion of the relationship that I had with the couple.
Yeah,
You could feel it, and you could be like, man, I really want that kind of relationship with my planner. And a planner that just not only shows up, because I've heard at so many weddings I've ever done, the DJ always tells me a story about a wedding planner who showed up, but like I didn't see her for the rest of the night. Like I saw her barely all night, or we were rushing the entire night and we never got anything done on the timeline that was given.
hmm.
So showing that,
Yeah,
I think, was important, because that's how I differ from everybody else.
exactly. Really showing your involvement. It's awesome.
Yes.
Cool.
Um, yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. And so, what is one piece of advice that you would give to the students in the program to really get results and everything as well?
So I think I was a little skeptical, because I was like, this better work. And it took me a while. I went through a learning curve again with your system, and I had to think on a bigger scale, because I was thinking of all my clients I've ever had, and I was like, okay, what were the things, the same complaints they've ever given me? What were things they told me they were worried about? And kind of see a streamline of how they're all like the common denominator. So looking for the common denominator between all the clients you've ever worked for, because there is something there. You just don't know what it is.
Yeah.
Or even reach out to your customers, which I have in the past. I have customers, I still talk to them even though they're married already, and I'll ask them like, hey, I'm just doing some market research, can you tell me what was it about me that you liked? Or what was it, how were you feeling when we met,
Hmm.
and how did I make you feel more secure to hire me? Like asking those questions, and asking even just 5 brides will give you some sort of common denominator where you can build content off,
Yeah.
but also figuring out what people like you for. Because if you
Hmm.
don't know what they like you for, then how the hell are you going to come up with marketing
Exactly.
content? And then you just feel like, I don't even know what I'm writing about is like going to make sense to someone, but it's going to make sense if you go back to what you already know, what you've already done.
Exactly.
And just being yourself, being authentic, because I've learned that it's like in sales, they call it the giveaway, the takeaway. If you act like you were dying for this business, you will never get it. But when you pretend that like, well, I posted on my website, and I changed my website where it said how many weddings that I would accept.
Hmm.
It just changes the whole perception of like, oh man, like
You
she
don't
just
need
doesn't work with
everyone.
anybody. She's particular on who she works with, and now I feel more that I want to be a part of her community, because she's not someone for everybody. She's just someone for someone specific. And I
Exactly.
think that's a mental
Hmm.
game that works really well with people if you play that mental game even when you're discussions with them. I've increased my prices. So this bride, she went through my sales funnel and she was getting my emails and she would actually reading the planning checklist.
Yeah.
And she emailed me and said, "Oh, I haven't picked out." She was in the beginning process. She's like, "Oh, I asked her where her budget was for her wedding. What was her budget for a planner?" She had to fill that out on my website. When I got it, it was like, I don't know. I'm just right now exploring. So I was like, oh man, she's probably just exploring, but she wants to talk. When I talked to her and I told her what my process is, and I made the conversation first about her,
Huh.
and I had a bunch of discovery questions. Like I have a process that I write 5 discovery questions. I ask them, get them out of the way. And then once I started talking about myself and I told her, okay, here's how I work, because I'm not going to downplay like what
Yeah.
I'm doing. And I told her that, then she was like, then it made her want more. And
Exactly. That's
and
key.
she
That's
I
key.
felt like those indoctrination emails definitely helped because I felt like she acted like she knew me already. Like,
Yes.
and I was trying to introduce myself and she's like, "Crystal, I've been getting your email." Like she acted like she had already known me or knew something about me, and it built trust enough for her now to reach out to me.
Hmm.
So I noticed that the people who read all my content and then I have a call with them, I'm not selling myself because they'll tell me, "Crystal, I don't need any reviews from you. Like
Exactly.
I've already done my homework on you before we had this call."
Hmm.
So
Makes the
that tells me
consultation
that
so much easier.
it makes it higher close rate and it's not like as a longer of a sales process.
Hmm.
And it probably took her like a couple of days, and just offer free value up front, because I notice a lot of vendors, they won't give any information until the person signs a contract. That is so
Interesting.
stupid.
Yeah.
So I give the information up front. If they say, "Oh, I need a videographer, or I'm looking for this one," I'll be like, "Hey, I'll just shoot you over some ideas." Meanwhile, they haven't booked with me yet, but I still will be adding value.
Hmm.
I don't stop. And I think that's what makes the difference, because then the next planner they talk to is like, "Hey, I'm not sending any information until you sign this contract." And they try to
Exactly.
use information as like a scapegoat of like, I'm going to withhold the information until you sign a contract with me. And so I think that's where my selling point is that stands out the
No,
most.
I think that's perfect. One of my favorite entrepreneurs, Gary Vaynerchuk, he talks about, jab, 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 right hook. And if you keep giving value, and the jabs means value, if you keep giving value, 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 say like in your nurturing funnel, even in your consultation, by the time that you ask for the sale, they already want it. Makes it so much easier, and I think that's perfect. And one thing that I love that you're talking about is the changes that you made in your website, because it really changes it in a way where you're interviewing the couple, it's not the other way around. And when you have that authority, it's so much more attractive for the client as well. And I think that's perfect. Yeah, and I think that's amazing advice. I hope you guys got some awesome value from that as well and everything. Yeah, and thank you so much, Crystal. This was awesome.
No problem. Thanks so much for including me. I'm so excited to get more doing this
Absolutely.
process. It's worked really well. And I just met with a client and she's like, "Crystal," she's so excited to work with me. And she's already contacted me like a gazillion times before today. And I finally first got my like highest paycheck for my highest package, and I increased my prices
Yeah,
by $500. I didn't want to do too much of an increase, but in another 6 months, I'm going to increase another 500. Like
that's
I'm just going
awesome.
to keep doing that to progress it. But I noticed tremendous change in the people, the type of people I'm attracting.
Perfect, perfect.
They're not asking me, they're not like questioning. Price is not even like part of our conversation. Like at the end, it's like I don't even bring up price. At the end, they say, "Oh, so like I could tell when they're interested. Like, can you run me through your 3 packages and the pricing?" And then they'll tell me up front, "Oh, I'm more of going to be looking at this," but no one's balked at my prices,
Perfect.
and they've all knew a lot about me before we spoke. So it
That's
was a
awesome.
different conversation.
Good,
Totally.
good, good. Yeah, no
So
more
I
of the
appreciate
people
it.
just saying, "What's your price?" Bye.
Yeah, because then you don't even. How can you compare? You're comparing
Exactly.
apples to oranges. You have
So
no idea what you're
you've
comparing.
really started to build a brand and everything, kind of in it.
Yes. See, but I appreciate your help, Jordan. This has been so amazing. I feel like my brain isn't falling apart now because I was starting to feel like, damn, all this training, and I feel like I'm missing something. So it brought all the little
It's
pieces
coming together
that
a
I
little
was
bit.
missing. Yeah, you're the only person in the entire country, I'm telling you right now, hands down, that does like that focuses on the wedding market in this space, because I'm a part of Ty Lopez's program, and everyone focuses on so many other verticals,
Hmm.
but no one's focusing on the wedding industry. And I think
Exactly.
it's just because none of them work in it.
Yeah.
So they all focus in different areas.
The patterns are
And so,
different.
oh my God, they're so
They
different,
really are.
because you can't once you get a lead for what a bride, you lose the lead. You have to be
Exactly.
you can't keep selling the same person. I wish that was the case, but you just can't keep selling the same person over and over again.
Exactly.
So it's been really, really helpful. And I was like, I swear, I told my husband, I'm like, I swear this is meant to be, because I fucking just saw an ad for someone who actually knows what they're doing in the wedding industry. No joke. It was good timing. I'm like,
Good.
this is totally meant to be, because I've never even seen an ad. And then all of a sudden it pops up on my screen, and I'm like, oh my God, I have to find out what this person knows. So it's been a blessing since. So I
Good. Yeah.
appreciate
And
it.
I've enjoyed seeing the progress and everything, and seeing the results that you're getting. It's been awesome.
Thanks so much. I appreciate it.
No problem.